The house was quiet that night. Only the slow ticking of the old clock in the living room broke the silence. The air was heavy, filled with something that Amina couldn't name. She sat on the edge of her bed, her hands shaking slightly as she held her phone, staring at the blank screen. Her heart felt strange, like it was waiting for something bad to happen. The shadows on the walls looked darker than usual, and even the wind outside seemed to whisper secrets she wasn't supposed to hear. She took a deep breath and looked round her small room. The curtains fluttered softly. The bulb above her head flickered once, and she felt a chill. She whispered to herself, "Why do I feel like something is wrong tonight?" Then she said it, almost without meaning, 2 words that would later haunt her forever. "I still remember that night. It was the night everything changed." Amina had worked hard all her life. She was a widow, living in a small house in a quiet town. Her husband had passed away 10 years ago, leaving her with a young son, Imran. From the day she became a single mother, her world revolved around him. She had worked as a tailor for years, saving every single penny for his future. She had dreams that one day, Imran would have a better life than she ever did. Imran had grown up to be a handsome, educated man. When he got married 2 years ago, Amina felt proud. His wife, Sana, seemed polite at first, sweet, kind, always smiling. But Amina soon noticed small things that made her uneasy. Sana didn't like staying in the small house. She wanted a bigger home, new furniture, and expensive dresses. She often compared Amina's simple life to the luxury she saw on social media. Amina tried to ignore it. She's young, she would tell herself. She will understand life one day. But as time passed, things started to change. Imran visited his mother less often. When he did, he was always in a hurry. Sana barely spoke to Amina anymore. The laughter that once filled the house disappeared. Amina pretended everything was fine, but deep inside, she felt the distance growing between them like a wall she couldn't climb. Then, one afternoon, something strange happened. Amina was in her room sewing when she heard her son's voice on the phone. His voice was low, serious. She didn't mean to eavesdrop, but his words froze her hands in the air. "Don't worry," Imran said. "I'll get the money somehow. She has it saved. It's enough for the tickets and hotel. She doesn't need it now. We'll tell her later." Amina's heart started to beat faster. She held her breath, listening. She could hear Sana's voice faintly from the other side of the call. "Just do it," Sana said. "We deserve this trip. It's our time. She'll understand later." Amina's hands trembled. Her eyes filled with tears. She had been saving that money for years, for emergencies, for her old age. It was all she had. That night she couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She wanted to believe she had misunderstood. Her son wouldn't do that. He loved her. He couldn't. But something deep inside her whispered that the world had already changed. The next morning she went to the bank. She smiled politely at the teller, handed over her passbook, and asked to check her balance. The woman behind the counter typed for a moment, then looked up. "Ma'am, your account is empty," she said gently. "All the money was withdrawn 2 days ago." Amina's lips parted, but no sound came out. She felt the ground move under her feet. "Empty," she whispered. "There must be a mistake." The teller shook her head. "No mistake, ma'am. It was withdrawn through online transfer to a personal account." The name on the screen was one Amina knew too well, Imran Ahmed. Her heart broke in that moment. The room started to spin. She gripped the counter for support. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. She didn't want anyone to see her pain. When she reached home, she sat in silence for hours. She didn't call him. She didn't cry. She just stared at the floor. Memories flooded her mind, his first steps, his first day of school, how he used to hold her hand when crossing the road. All those years of love, all those sacrifices, and now he had stolen from her Dot. Later that evening, Imran called her. His voice sounded cheerful. "Ami, how are you? I'll come by tomorrow. Sana and I are going on a small trip. We'll be away for a week." Amina swallowed hard. A trip? With what money, Imran? She asked softly. There was silence on the other end. Then he said quickly, "Emmy, I'll explain later. Don't worry about it. You rest, okay?" Before she could say another word, he hung up. Amina sat there staring at her phone. A tear slid down her cheek. She whispered, "You took everything, my son." That night she couldn't eat. The food on her plate went cold. The house felt darker, emptier than ever before. The silence was loud. She could almost hear her late husband's voice in her mind saying, "Take care of him, Amina. He's our only son." She looked up at his photo on the wall and whispered, "I did. Kay, I gave him everything." Days passed slowly. Each one felt heavier than the last. Amina tried to tell herself that maybe Imran would return, that he would apologize, but a week went by and she heard nothing. Then one morning, her neighbor brought her a newspaper and pointed at a small photo on the travel section's front page. It was Imran and Sanaa smiling, standing in front of a luxury resort. The headline read, "Newlywed couple enjoyed dream vacation abroad." Amina felt her knees weaken. The photo was bright, colorful, full of joy, but for her, it was like a knife twisting in her chest. She dropped the paper on the floor and sat down slowly. Her heart felt empty. That night she cried quietly into her pillow. "How could he do this to me?" she whispered again and again. But in that pain, something else was born, something cold and steady, a thought, a plan. The betrayal had broken her, but it had also awakened a fire she didn't know she still had. From that day, Amina decided she would not cry anymore. She would not beg for her money. She would not call him. Instead, she would wait. She would think. She would find a way to make him realize what he had done. The days turned into weeks. Imran didn't contact her. When he finally returned, it was as if nothing had happened. He came home smiling, carrying gifts. "Emmy, look. I brought you a shawl from our trip," he said cheerfully, placing it on her lap. Amina looked at the shawl, beautiful, soft, and expensive. Her lips curved into a small, forced smile. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You must have enjoyed a lot." He nodded. "Yes, Ammy, it was amazing. Sanaa loved it. We needed the break." Amina wanted to ask him, "Did you need the break more than your mother needed her life savings?" But she said nothing. She only smiled, her heart burning with silent pain. That night, he sat by the window again, watching the moonlight fall on the empty street outside. The cold air touched her face. She closed her eyes and whispered, "He took my money, but he also took my trust. Now he must learn what that means." She began to plan her revenge slowly, quietly, not out of anger, but out of pain. She wanted him to understand what betrayal felt like. She didn't want to harm him, but she wanted him to see what it meant to lose everything he took for granted. The first thing she did was visit her lawyer friend. She asked simple questions about inheritance, property, and the rights of a parent. The lawyer was surprised but answered everything patiently. Then she began to move her remaining belongings, jewelry, savings, certificates, to another safe place. She opened a new account in another bank. She changed her will. She didn't tell anyone, not even her closest neighbor. She only waited, silently building her plan. Imran, unaware of what his mother was doing, continued his life happily. He often visited her, but only when he needed something. Sanaa rarely came with him anymore. She had new friends, new parties, and new demands. One evening, Amina noticed that Imran had started hinting about selling her house. "Emmy," he said, "this house is too old. If we sell it, we can buy a new apartment. You can stay with us." She looked at him carefully. His tone was gentle, but his eyes were restless. She could tell he had already made a plan. She smiled faintly. "We'll see, Beta," she said softly. That night, Amina stood outside her house, looking at it quietly. The old walls, the creaking door, the smell of jasmine from the small garden, all of it had been built with love. She ran her hand along the wall and whispered, "They think I am weak because I am old. They don't know me at all." As she turned back toward the house, she saw a shadow move inside. The curtain shifted. Her heart skipped a beat. She froze for a second, then slowly walked inside. Is someone there? Ah. She called out softly. No answer. Only silence. The light in the living room flickered again. She took another step forward. The floor creaked under her feet. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her shawl. Then she heard Ida whisper, very faint, almost like a sigh. Her breath caught in her throat. She turned toward the sound, her eyes wide with fear, and then she saw something that made her blood run cold. A small folded piece of paper lying on the table, with her name written on it in her son's handwriting. She reached for it slowly, her hands shaking. When she opened it, her eyes filled with tears. The words inside were short, but they burned like fire. Sorry, Amy. I had no choice. Amina stood there, frozen, the note trembling in her hands. The quiet night suddenly felt heavier than ever. The clock ticked louder. The air grew colder, and in that silence she whispered to herself, her voice low but filled with promise. Now you will learn, my son. Now it's my turn. Amina couldn't sleep that night. The note lay on the table beside her, its words echoing in her mind. Sorry, Amy, I had no choice. No choice. What did that even mean? She stared at the ceiling as the fan turned slowly, its soft hum mixing with the distant barking of a stray dog outside. The moonlight came through the window, pale and cold, falling across her wrinkled hands. She ran her fingers over the note again and again, feeling the pain of betrayal pressing on her chest like a heavy stone. She had raised Imran alone. She had fed him when she was hungry. She had stitched clothes till midnight to pay for his college. And now her son said he had no choice but to steal from her. That sentence broke something inside her, but it also made her stronger by morning. Kaina had made her decision. She wouldn't fight with him. She wouldn't scream or cry. No, she would become so calm that it would scare him. Revenge, she thought, didn't always mean shouting or punishment. Sometimes silence hurt more than words. The next day she made tea and sat in the courtyard, waiting. She knew he would come. Imran always came after doing something wrong, pretending nothing had happened, hoping time would wash away his guilt. Around noon, she heard the sound of his motorbike outside. The gate opened, and there he was, her only son, standing there with a smile as if nothing in the world was wrong. Assalamu alaikum, Ami, he said cheerfully, walking in with a small box in his hand. I brought you your favorite sweets. Mina looked up slowly. Wa alaikum assalam, she said softly. Her face showed no anger, no happiness, just calm. Imran placed the sweets on the table and sat across from her. How have you been? Sana sends her love. She's gone to her mother's place for a few days. Amina nodded and poured him a cup of tea. You must be tired, she said. He smiled, relieved. Maybe she didn't know, he thought. Maybe the bank hadn't told her anything. They sat in silence for a few minutes. The only sound was the rustle of the trees outside. Then Amina spoke, her tone quiet but steady. Imran, she said, when you were small, you used to hide behind the door after doing something wrong. Do you remember that? Imran looked surprised. Ami, what are you talking about? She smiled faintly. I remember one day you broke your father's watch. You cried for hours. You said you didn't mean to. But your father held you and said, it's okay, son. Just don't hide the truth from your mother. Imran looked away. His hands tightened around his cup. Amina continued. Yesterday I went to the bank. My account was empty. He froze. Her eyes were on him, now calm, cold, unreadable. I saw your name there, Imran. You took everything. Imran's lips parted. Ami, I can explain. He stammered. She leaned forward slightly. Then explain. He looked down. Sana wanted to go abroad. Her mother was insisting. She said it would be good for us to travel, to relax. I didn't want to upset her. I thought I would return the money soon. I swear, Ami, I was going to tell you. Amina listened without a word. Her eyes were full of quiet pain. When he finished, she said softly, "You used my blood, my years of hard work, for a vacation." "Amy, please," he said desperately. "It wasn't like that. I'll make it right. I promise." She stood up slowly. "You don't have to promise anything," she said. "Just leave. Go back to your wife." Imran blinked. "Amy." "Go," she repeated, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't want to see you right now." He hesitated, guilt filling his face, then stood up and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned back. "Amy, I'll fix everything, I promise." Mina didn't answer. She just stood there, watching him go, her heart breaking again, but this time she didn't cry. When the gate closed, she exhaled slowly. The house was silent again. The wind carried the faint smell of jasmine from the garden. She turned to the small table where his father's photo still stood. "He doesn't understand yet," she whispered. "But he will." That evening, Amina began her plan. She opened an old wooden box under her bed. Inside were some documents, her property papers, her jewelry receipts, and a small book where she had written every expense of the past 20 years. She looked at them one by one, her mind working quietly. She decided to transfer the ownership of her house not to Imran, but to a trust that helped poor widows. Her lawyer friend helped her prepare the papers. When she signed them, her hands trembled a little. "Are you sure, Amina?" her friend asked. "This house means everything to you." Amina nodded slowly. "Yes, that's why I must do it. I want to give it to someone who will value it." She didn't tell Imran anything. Days passed. Weeks turned into months. Imran stopped visiting. Amina knew he felt guilty, but guilt without change meant nothing. She kept herself busy teaching sewing to neighborhood girls, cooking for local charity events, and helping others with small needs. Slowly, she started to feel peace again. Then one afternoon, she received a call. "Amy, it's me." Imran's voice came, sounding weak and tired. Amina froze for a second. "Imran, what's wrong?" He sighed. "Amy, I lost my job. The company cut people. I have no money right now. Can you help me for a few weeks?" Her heart ached. Despite everything, she was still a mother. "How much do you need?" she asked quietly. "Just 50,000, he said. "I'll return it soon." Amina looked out the window. The sunlight fell softly on the plants she had watered that morning. She thought for a long moment, then said, "Come home tomorrow. We'll talk." The next day, Imran arrived. His face looked pale, his clothes wrinkled. Life had started teaching him lessons the hard way. He sat quietly on the sofa, avoiding her eyes. Amina walked in with a cup of tea. "Here," she said. "Drink." He took it with a shaky hand. "Amy, I didn't mean to hurt you that time. I really didn't." Amina sat across from him, her expression soft but distant. "I know," she said. "You never meant to. But sometimes, meaning well doesn't erase what's done." He lowered his head. "I'll make it right, I swear." She smiled faintly. "Do you need money or love, Imran?" He looked confused. "Amy, She interrupted gently. "You already took my money once. I want to see what you do when you can't take any more." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She stood up and handed him an envelope. "Here," she said. He opened it. Inside was a single note, not cash, not a check, but a piece of paper. It read, "When you learn to stand on your own feet, you'll find what you lost." Imran looked up, his face full of confusion and frustration. "Amy, what is this?" Amina said quietly, "It's your lesson. You took everything from me because you thought I would always be here to forgive you. Now you'll have to find your way without me." Imran stood up angrily. "So you won't help me? After everything I've done for you?" Amina looked straight into his eyes. "You mean everything I've done for you?" He opened his mouth to argue, but her calmness silenced him. He turned and stormed out of the house. When the door closed, Amina finally let her tears fall. "It hurts," she whispered. "But he needs this pain. It's the only way he'll learn." Weeks passed. Imran stopped calling. She heard from neighbors that he was struggling to pay rent, that his wife had left him and gone to her mother's place again. Amina's heart ached for him, but she didn't interfere. She waited. One rainy night, she heard a knock at her door. The sound was weak, hesitant. She opened it slowly in. There he was, drenched in rain, shivering. His eyes were red, his face tired and hopeless. "Amy," he whispered, "can I come in?" Amina stepped aside silently. He entered, dripping water on the floor. She brought him a towel and made him sit near the heater. For a long time, they said nothing. The only sound was the rain outside, tapping softly on the windows. Finally, Imran spoke. His voice broke as he said, "I lost everything, Amy. My job, my wife, my friends. No one helps me. I don't even have money to buy food." Amina looked at him quietly. Her eyes softened, but her voice was calm. "Now you know what it feels like to have nothing," she said. He nodded slowly, tears falling down his face. "I'm sorry, Amy. I was blind. I thought money was everything. I thought you would always forgive me. I was wrong." Amina reached out and touched his hand. "Sometimes we only understand love when life takes everything away from us." He cried quietly, and she let him. For the first time in months, he looked like her son again, not proud, not selfish, just human. After a while, Amina stood up and went to her cupboard. She opened a small drawer and took out a sealed envelope. She handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked, confused. "Open it," she said softly. He tore it open. Inside were two documents. One was a job offer letter from a friend's company. The other was a small key. Amina smiled gently. "The key is for a small apartment I rented for you. The job is in the same area. It's not fancy, but it's honest work. You'll start from zero like I did." Imran's eyes widened. "Amy, you did this for me." She nodded. "Yes, because I want you to rebuild your life with your own hands." He looked at her, his eyes full of tears. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. She smiled sadly. "No one deserves a mother's love, Imran. It's a gift we give even when our hearts are broken." He broke down again, holding her hands tightly. Amina looked out the window at the rain. The wind blew softly, carrying the smell of wet earth. For a brief moment she felt peace, but deep inside she knew this was only the beginning. Because while she had forgiven him, her revenge wasn't complete yet. He had learned pain, but he hadn't yet learned truth. And the truth she was hiding would soon change everything. As the thunder rolled outside, Amina whispered under her breath, "One more lesson left, my son. Just one more." The night was still heavy with rain. Drops slid down the window like tears. Amina sat alone near the heater, the warmth touching her cold hands. Imran had left an hour ago. She watched the empty chair where he had sat earlier, his eyes full of regret. His voice, broken with guilt, still echoed in her ears. She should have felt peace now. Her son had finally realized his mistake. But deep inside, Amina felt something else, a strange silence that refused to leave her heart. She knew her journey was not over yet. She whispered softly to herself, "He has learned pain. Now he must learn truth." The next morning, she woke early. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray. She made tea and looked at the garden. The air smelled of wet soil and jasmine. She remembered how her husband Rashid used to love this weather. He would sit outside with his tea and talk about their future, how he wanted Imran to become a kind and honest man. Amina smiled sadly. "You had big dreams for him," she said to her husband's photo on the wall. "But he lost his way. Maybe I did too." She turned to the small cupboard beside her bed. Inside was an old brown envelope, the one she hadn't shown anyone. She took it out carefully and opened it. Inside were two letters, yellow with age, and one small photo of a little boy. Not Imran. Her fingers brushed the photo gently. The boy in it had soft brown eyes and a small smile. "Forgive me," she whispered, "but now the truth must come out." That afternoon, Amina decided to visit Imran at the new apartment she had arranged for him. It was a small place, clean but simple. When she knocked, Imran opened the door with surprise. "Amy." I didn't expect you so soon, he said, quickly moving things around to make space. Amina smiled faintly. I was nearby. Thought I'd see how you're settling in. He looked nervous. It's okay. Just taking time to get used to everything. She nodded and sat down. There was an awkward silence between them. Imran looked tired, but there was also a spark of determination in his eyes now. Maybe life had started teaching him responsibility. I went to the interview, he said suddenly. Your friend was kind. I start next week. That's good, Amina replied softly. I'm proud of you. He smiled weakly. I'll make it right this time, Ami. I promise. She looked at him quietly. Imran, do you believe everything in life can be made right? He frowned. What do you mean? She sighed. Sometimes when we do wrong, even if we say sorry, it doesn't erase the truth. It only hides it. For a while. He looked confused but didn't ask more. Amina stood up. I'll go now. Take care of yourself. Wait, he said, hesitating. Ami, can we start fresh? She smiled gently. Yes, Beta. But before we do, I have something to tell you. Not today. Soon. He nodded slowly, not realizing those words would soon change his entire life. That night, Amina couldn't sleep again. She sat near the window, looking out at the moon. Her mind drifted back many years to a night long before Imran was born. She remembered the hospital, the crying, the confusion, the doctor's face pale with worry. She remembered how she had fainted after childbirth, how she had woken up hours later to see a nurse holding a baby saying, he's fine. MAAM. Congratulations. But what Amina never told anyone was what she heard later that night, two nurses whispering in the hallway. One said, there was a mistake with the babies in room 3. The other replied, don't talk about it. The head nurse already fixed it. At that time, Amina was too weak, too lost in joy to understand what they meant. She never asked questions. She took her baby home, and that baby became her whole world. But years later, when Imran was about 10, Amina noticed small things, things that didn't add up. His blood type was different from both hers and her late husband's. His old doctor once mentioned it casually, saying, strange genetics, huh? And laughed at first. She ignored it. But the doubt never left her. After Rashid's death, she quietly ran a DNA test. One she never showed to anyone. The results had confirmed what she feared. Imran was not her biological son. She had sat with that truth for years. Alone. She never told him, never told anyone. Because it didn't matter. She thought love was stronger than blood. But now, after everything he had done, that truth had begun to ache again inside her. Maybe he should know, she whispered to herself that night. Maybe he should understand what real love means. She decided she would tell him. But not yet. Not until he truly changed. Not until he learned humility and gratitude. A week later, Imran came to visit her again. This time he looked different, calmer, more grounded. Double quotes, AMMI, the job is good, he said, sitting beside her. I'm working hard. My boss says I have potential. Amina smiled. That's wonderful. He hesitated. Sana, she called me. She said she wants to come back. I don't know what to do. Mina's eyes narrowed slightly. Do you still love her? He nodded slowly. Yes, but I don't trust her anymore. She looked at him gently. Then maybe you've finally learned something. He sighed. Maybe I have. They talked for hours that day about small things, about life, about forgiveness. For the first time in a long while, Amina felt hope. Maybe this was the son she had raised. Kind, humble, changed. Before leaving, Imran hugged her tightly. I love you, Ami, he said quietly. Tears filled her eyes. I love you too, Beta, she whispered back. But as she watched him leave, a part of her heart still whispered, he must know the truth. Days passed peacefully. Amina's health, however, began to weaken. The years of stress and sleepless nights had caught up to her. She often felt dizzy, her hands trembling when she held a cup of tea. But she didn't tell anyone. She had one final thing to do before she could rest. One evening, she took out the old envelope again and sat at her writing desk. She took a blank page and began to write slowly, carefully. Imran, if you are reading this, it means I am gone or I am too weak to speak. There is something you must know, something I kept from you all your life. I raised you with love that came from my soul, not from my blood. You were not born from me, but you were born into my heart. You were never mine by blood, but you were mine by choice. I knew it since you were 10. I never told you because it didn't matter. You were my son. You always will be. But I hope when you read this, you will finally understand what real love is, the kind that gives without asking anything back. She folded the letter and placed it inside the envelope with the photo and the DNA result. Then she sealed it and wrote on top, "For Imran, when the time is right." She placed it inside her cupboard and locked it. Then she whispered softly, "Soon." The next morning, something unexpected happened. Amina received a call from Sana. "Ami," Sana said, her voice unusually soft. "Can I come see you?" Amina was surprised. "Of course, Beta. You're always welcome." When Sana arrived, she looked different. There were dark circles under her eyes, her hands fidgeting nervously. She sat down and started crying. "Ami, I made a big mistake," she said between sobs. "I pushed Imran to do things he didn't want to. The money, the trip, it was all my idea. I wanted to show off to my mother. I ruined everything." Amina listened quietly, her heart both heavy and calm. Sana continued, "Imran has changed now. He's trying to fix his life. I want to come back, but I'm afraid he'll never forgive me." Amina sighed softly. "If you truly regret it, then you should face him. Don't run away. Talk to him. Ask for forgiveness, not with words, but with actions." Sana nodded, wiping her tears. "I will, Ami. Thank you." Amina smiled faintly. "Do you love him?" "Yes," Sana whispered. "I was foolish, but I love him." Amina touched her hand. "Then go make things right. And remember, forgiveness is the only thing that can fix what pride destroys." Sana hugged her tightly before leaving. After she left, Amina sat quietly for a long time. The evening light fell softly through the window. The world outside was calm. For the first time in months, she felt that maybe everything would fall into place again. But just as she was about to stand, she heard a knock on the door, soft, but urgent. When she opened it, 2 men were standing outside. They were wearing formal clothes. One of them asked, "Are you Mrs. Amina Ahmed?" She nodded, her heart skipping a beat. "Yes, I am." The man looked serious. "We're from the hospital records department. We've been trying to contact you for weeks. There's something important we need to discuss about your son." Amina's face went pale. "My son," she repeated, her voice shaking. The man nodded. "Yes, about the child born to you 35 years ago." Amina felt the ground slip from under her feet. The room seemed to spin. She grabbed the edge of the door for support. "What about him?" she whispered. The man exchanged a glance with his partner, then said quietly, "It seems there was an error at the hospital, a mix-up. We've recently found records proving that your biological son is still alive." Amina's eyes widened. The air around her seemed to freeze. Her voice trembled. "What? What are you saying?" The man took a deep breath. "Your real son was given to another family by mistake. We've traced him. His name is Samir." Amina's heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear the rest. The men continued explaining, but she couldn't focus. Her hands shook. Her vision blurred. After they left, she sat down slowly on the sofa, her whole body trembling. She whispered to herself, "My real son. Alive." Tears filled her eyes as she looked at the photo of Imran on the wall. The son she raised. The son she loved. The son who wasn't hers by blood. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "What am I supposed to do now?" The wind outside began to howl softly. The curtain moved like a shadow. The envelope with the truth still lay hidden in her cupboard. But now another truth had arrived, one that could destroy everything. Amina didn't sleep that night. The words of the hospital men kept echoing in her head. Your real son was given to another family. His name is Samir." She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the photo of Imran. Her eyes were swollen from crying. The clock ticked slowly in the silence, each second cutting through her heart like a knife. All these years, she had believed that the truth about Imran not being her biological son was her biggest secret. But now, fate had thrown her into a storm she never expected. Her real son was alive. She whispered to herself, "Why now? After so many years, why now?" The next morning, she could barely move. Her head ached, and her chest felt heavy. Still, she forced herself to get ready. She needed answers. She went to the hospital mentioned by the men. The receptionist recognized her immediately. "Ah, Mrs. Amina Ahmed. Please wait, the administrator is expecting you." Moments later, a kind-looking man in his 50s welcomed her into his office. Double quotes, "Mrs. Ahmed. First of all, I'm deeply sorry for the pain this must be causing you," he began softly. "Our hospital has recently digitized old birth records. During the process, we found evidence of a mix-up that happened 35 years ago." Amina's hands trembled. "A mix-up," she repeated, though she already knew. The man nodded. "Yes, 2 babies were accidentally switched in the maternity ward. Your son and another woman's, that woman's child was given to you, and yours was given to her." Amina felt her breath catch. "And the other woman? She passed away 10 years ago," the man said gently. "But her son, your biological child, is alive. His name is Samir Khan. He's a teacher in Lahore." Amina leaned back, closing her eyes. "A teacher," she whispered. "Does he know?" The man hesitated. "Not yet. We haven't told him. We wanted your permission first." She sat quietly for a long moment, her heart beating faster and faster. Finally, she said in a trembling voice, "I need to see him." The following week, Amina traveled to Lahore. The train ride was long and quiet. She stared out the window as fields and villages passed by, her mind full of confusion. How could she face him? What would she even say? Would he accept her? Would he even want to know her? By the time she reached the city, it was evening. She took a small taxi to the address given by the hospital, a modest neighborhood, full of narrow lanes and small homes. The driver stopped near a small school building. Children were running outside, laughing. Amina's heart skipped a beat when she saw a tall young man standing at the gate, smiling as he helped the children cross the road. He looked kind. His eyes were gentle, just like Rashid's. The driver said, "That's Samir Sahib. He's a good man, very popular here." Amina stared at him, tears welling in her eyes. She wanted to run to him, hold him, tell him everything. But her feet wouldn't move. She whispered, "My son." Later, when the school closed, Amina gathered her courage and approached him. "Excuse me," she said softly. Samir turned around and smiled politely. "Yes, madam. Can I help you?" Her voice trembled. "I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Amina Ahmed. May I have a few minutes?" He nodded kindly. "Of course. Please come in." Inside his small office, Amina looked around. The walls were full of children's drawings and motivational quotes. There was a sense of peace in the room, something warm and honest. Samir poured her a glass of water. "So, Mrs. Amina, what brings you here?" She looked down at her hands. "It's not easy to explain," she began slowly, "but it's something very important. It's about your birth." He looked surprised. "My birth?" She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "You were born in Karachi, in the same hospital where I gave birth. There was a mistake." Amir frowned slightly. "I don't understand." Amina took a deep breath and said, "You are my son." Silence filled the room. Samir stared at her, completely still. "What did you just say?" She wiped her tears. "You are my real son. The hospital made a mistake. They gave me another baby, and you were given to someone else." He blinked several times, unable to process her words. "That's not possible." "I know it's hard to believe," Amina said, pulling out the old envelope from her bag. "These are the hospital papers. DNA tests, everything. Samir took the papers slowly, his hands shaking. He read them carefully, his face pale. After a long silence, he whispered, "So, all my life. The woman I called mother wasn't really my mother." Amina's voice broke. "She was your mother, Beta. She raised you. She loved you. Just like I loved the son I raised, though he wasn't mine by blood." Samir sat down heavily, covering his face with his hands. Tears ran down his cheeks. "This is too much," he whispered. "I don't know how to feel." Amina reached out and placed her hand on his arm. "You don't have to decide anything now. I just needed to see you. To know you're happy. That's all." Samir looked up at her. His eyes filled with confusion, pain, and something else - compassion. After a long pause, he said softly, "You came all this way to tell me the truth. That takes courage." She smiled faintly through her tears. A mother's heart always finds her child. He lowered his eyes. "Do I have a brother?" Amina nodded slowly. "Yes. His name is Imran, the boy I raised." Samir swallowed hard. "Does he know?" She shook her head. "Not yet." He looked thoughtful. "Then maybe. We shouldn't tell him right now. It could break him." Amina sighed. "Yes. I've thought about that too." Samir smiled gently. "Let's take it slow. I want to understand this first." Over the next few days, Amina and Samir met several times. They talked for hours about his childhood, her life, and the strange twist of fate that connected them. Samir told her about the woman who raised him, how she was strict but loving, how she always said, "You were born from my heart, not from my body." Amina listened, tears often falling silently. "She sounds like a wonderful woman," she said softly. Samir replied, "I lost her 10 years ago, and now, suddenly, I found another mother." He smiled faintly, and for the first time, Amina felt a little peace in her heart. But that peace didn't last long. One evening, while Amina was preparing tea at her guest house, her phone rang. It was Imran Ami. "Where are you? I've been trying to call you for 2 days." She froze. "I'm fine, Beta. I came to Lahore for some work." "What work?" he asked, sounding worried. "Are you okay?" Yes. Don't worry. Ami, please tell me the truth," he insisted. "You sound different." Kina smiled weakly. "I'll tell you everything when I return. Promise." "I promise." After hanging up, Amina sat down slowly. She realized she couldn't hide this for long. Imran would soon start asking questions, and when he learned about Samir, things could explode. The next day, Samir insisted on driving her around Lahore. They visited old parks, small cafes. It's kind of even a charity school he was helping to build. "You're doing such good work," Amina said proudly. "Your heart is pure." He smiled. "Maybe that comes from you." Amina laughed softly, her eyes glistening. "Maybe." But as they talked, neither of them noticed a car following them at a distance. A car driven by Imran. Imran had arrived in Lahore that morning. He had grown restless and anxious after Amina's strange phone call. When he tracked her number, he discovered she was staying near Goldberg, and curiosity pushed him to come. He never expected to see her, laughing and walking with a young man he didn't recognize. He parked his car and watched quietly from a distance. The man looked around the same age as him, tall, confident, and clearly close to Amina. A sharp pain hit Imran's chest. "Who is he?" he muttered. "Why is she with him?" He followed them to a small cafe and saw them talking and laughing again. His anger grew. She came all the way here for this. He couldn't take it anymore. He got out of the car and marched toward them. "Ami." He called out. Amina froze. Her teacup slipped from her hand. "Imran," she whispered, shocked. Samir looked confused. "Ami," he repeated, looking at Amina. Imran stopped in front of them, his face tight with anger. "What's going on here? Who is this man? And why is he calling you Ami?" Amina's hands shook. "Imran, please calm down. I can explain." "Explain what?" Imran interrupted. "That you have another son. That you've been lying to me." Samir stood up quickly. "Please don't talk to her like that." Imran turned on him. "And who are you to tell me how to talk to my mother?" Amina's voice trembled. "Imran, Stop. Please. Imran's voice broke. You left without telling me, Amy. I was worried sick. And now I find you with him calling you Amy. What am I supposed to think? Amina's eyes filled with tears. Because he is my son too. The cafe fell silent. Both men stared at her, frozen. Samir looked down, his heart pounding. Imran stepped back, disbelief on his face. What are you saying? Amina took a deep breath, tears streaming down her face. You two were switched at birth. You were raised as my son, but by blood. Samir is... Imran shook his head. No, that's not true. It is, Amina whispered. I didn't know until recently. But you are my son, Imran. You always will be. Nothing can change that. Imran's eyes filled with tears, but his face was full of hurt. So all my life, I wasn't even yours. Amina tried to reach for him. You are mine, Beta. Always. Please, he pulled away. No, Amy, you should have told me. You kept this from me, too. Samir stepped forward. Please, don't blame her. She was only trying to protect you. Imran glared at him. Stay out of this. Samir fell silent. Amina broke down crying. I'm sorry, Imran. I never wanted this. I love you both. But Imran shook his head. I can't do this right now. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing on the wet street outside. Amina collapsed back into her chair, sobbing. Samir knelt beside her, holding her hand. Give him time, he whispered. He'll come back. Amina nodded weakly, her heart breaking in silence. I just hope I haven't lost him forever. Imran didn't come home that night. Amina called him again and again, but his phone was off. The silence on the other end crushed her heart. Every hour felt longer than the last. She sat by the window of her guest house, watching the rain fall over Lahore's quiet streets. Her thoughts raced, the sound of his voice, the look in his eyes when he said, I wasn't even yours. She whispered into the darkness, You are my son, Imran. Always my son. Samir stayed close to her, afraid to leave her alone. He made her tea, but she didn't touch it. Her eyes stayed fixed on the road, hoping Imran would appear by morning. She couldn't take it anymore. We have to find him, she said. Samir nodded. I'll help you. They went to the bus station first, asking the workers if they had seen someone matching Imran's photo. Then to hotels, police stations, and even hospitals. But there was no sign of him. Amina's hands trembled as she clutched her dupatta. What if something happened to him? Samir placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. He's hurt, Amy. He needs time. But I promise we'll find him. 3 days passed. No call, no message. Samir took leave from school to help her. Every evening they went to the same cafe where it all began, hoping he might come back there. On the 4th night, Amina couldn't hold back her tears anymore. I've lost him, Samir. First, life took you from me. And now, I've lost him too. Samir sat beside her, quietly listening. You haven't lost either of us, Amy, he said softly. You've found me again? And Imran will come back when he's ready. He just needs to remember what kind of mother you are. Amina smiled faintly. You talk just like your father used to. Samir looked surprised. Really? She nodded. He always believed that love can heal anything. Samir smiled sadly. Then maybe it's time to prove him right. That night, while Amina finally managed to sleep for a few hours, Samir sat awake in the guest house lobby, scrolling through social media. On a local news page, a short post caught his attention. Man found near River Ravi Bridge unconscious but safe. No ID taken to city hospital. Samir's heart jumped. Something in his gut told him to check. Within half an hour, he was at the hospital. The corridors smelled of antiseptic and rain. He asked the nurse at the front desk, a man from the bridge. Can I see him? She checked the list and nodded. Room 12, Samir walked quickly down the hallway, his steps echoing in the silence. When he pushed open the door to room 12, his breath caught. It was Imran. His face was pale, a bandage on his forehead. He looked weak, like he hadn't eaten or slept in days, Samir whispered Imran. Imran slowly opened his eyes. His voice was hoarse. You? Samir nodded. Yes, it's me. Imran looked away. Why are you here? Because your mother is worried sick, Samir said quietly. She hasn't stopped looking for you. Imran didn't reply. His eyes stared blankly at the wall. Samir took a deep breath. I know this is hard. You feel betrayed, confused, maybe even angry. But please don't punish her for something she never wanted to happen. Imran's voice was low. She hid the truth. Yes, Samir admitted, but not to hurt you. She was scared. She raised you with everything she had. You're her world. Imran finally looked at him. And you're her real son. Samir shook his head. Real? What does that even mean? Blood doesn't make a mother, love does. Imran's eyes filled with tears. You really think so? Samir smiled gently. I know so. Because even though she's my mother by birth, you're the one who had her love all these years, and I respect that. Imran stayed silent for a long time, then whispered, I don't know how to face her. Samir stood up. You don't need to plan it. Just see her. That's enough. The next morning, Amina was preparing to visit more places to search for Imran when the door opened. She froze. There he was, standing in the doorway. Weak, tired, but alive. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then tears filled Amina's eyes, and she ran to him, wrapping her arms tightly around him. My son, she cried. My son, you came back. Imran buried his face in her shoulder, breaking down completely. I'm sorry, Ami. I was angry. I shouldn't have left. She held him close, her tears wetting his shirt. No, Beta. I'm sorry. I should have told you everything sooner. Samir stood by the door, quietly watching the reunion. His eyes were moist, but there was a gentle smile on his face. Amina reached out and pulled him closer too. Come here, Samir. He hesitated, then stepped forward. She took both their hands and placed them together. You are both my sons. I don't care what blood says. My heart belongs to both of you. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then Imran looked at Samir and whispered, Thank you for finding me. Samir smiled softly. We're brothers now, aren't we? Imran nodded slowly. Yes, we are. The following weeks were like a quiet healing after a storm. Imran returned to Karachi with Amina. And Samir visited often. The two men, once strangers, began to talk, share, and slowly build a bond. They cooked together, laughed together, and sometimes argued, but every moment brought them closer. One evening, as the three of them sat in the living room, Amina looked at them and said, I used to think life was unfair, but maybe everything happened so we could find each other in the end. Imran smiled. Maybe that's true. Samir nodded. Life doesn't always give what we want, but sometimes it gives what we need. Amina looked up, her eyes shining with peace for the first time in years. You're both my sons, one from my blood, one from my heart. I couldn't ask for more. Months later, on Amina's birthday, both her sons surprised her with a small celebration. They decorated the house with candles and flowers. When she walked into the room and saw them standing side by side, she couldn't hold back her tears. Samir handed her a framed photo. It was a picture of the three of them smiling together. Underneath it said, Family isn't about who you share blood with. It's about who shares your heart. Amina hugged them both tightly. I lost everything once, she whispered. But life gave it back to me, doubled. They all laughed. And for the first time in a long time, the house was full of warmth again. Outside, the evening sun dipped low, coloring the sky in soft gold. Inside, love had found its way home. Months had passed since Amina's world had found peace again. Imran and Samir were now closer than ever. At least, that's what it looked like from the outside. They spent weekends together, shared meals, and even began working on a small project, renovating Amina's old family house. Amina often sat on the porch, smiling as she watched them laugh. This is what I always dreamed of, she would say. My two sons together. But deep inside, a quiet storm was growing unseen, unheard. Imran had started feeling something he didn't want to admit. Insecurity? He had always been Amina's only son, her world, her pride. But now she had another son, one who was calm, respectful, and surprisingly successful. Samir didn't brag, but everyone around could see he was stable. He had a steady job, good manners, and people respected him. Even Amina seemed to glow differently when he visited. One evening, as they sat together for dinner, Mina smiled warmly and said, "Samir, you're such a good example. You've brought peace to our home." Samir laughed shyly. "I'm just trying my best, Ami." Imran forced a smile, but something inside him twisted. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept replaying her words, "You're such a good example." He stared at the ceiling and whispered bitterly, "Was I never enough?" Days turned into weeks. Imran began visiting less often. He said he was busy with work, but Amina noticed the distance growing. Samir, on the other hand, kept in touch daily. He called Amina every night, making sure she took her medicine and ate properly. "Imran hasn't called today," she said once during a phone chat with Samir. Samir paused, choosing his words carefully. "Maybe he's just busy, Ami. Don't worry." But inside, he was worried too. He sensed the change. The warmth in Imran's tone had faded since the day they became brothers. One afternoon, Imran came home after a long gap. Amina's eyes lit up the moment she saw him. "Imran, my son, I was starting to think you forgot your old mother." He smiled and hugged her, though his eyes darted around the house. "How are you, Ami?" "I'm fine. Samir came by yesterday. He brought some medicine for me." "Of course he did," Imran muttered under his breath. "What beta?" "Nothing," he said quickly. "Just tired." Later that evening, while Amina rested, Imran wandered into her room to grab a glass of water. His eyes fell on a small box on her dressing table. It was open, filled with papers, bank documents, property papers, and a few envelopes. Curiosity made him pick one up. It was a letter from Amina's lawyer. He read the first line and froze. "As discussed, your property transfer papers are ready. You have chosen to divide your assets equally between your two sons, Imran Ahmed and Samir Khan." Imran felt his stomach drop. "Equally," he whispered. "Half to him." He threw the paper back into the box, his hands shaking. "Everything I worked for. And she's giving it to him, too." Anger boiled in his chest. He already has everything, a job, a house, respect, and now she wants to give him half of mine. He walked out of the room quietly, but his mind was burning. Over the next few days, his behavior changed. He stopped answering Samir's calls, avoided Amina's messages, started drinking again, something he hadn't done in years. When Amina called, his voice sounded distant. "I'm fine, Ami, just tired," she sighed. "Imran, you and Samir should talk more. You're brothers now. Don't let small things come between you." He bit his tongue to hold back his frustration. "Of course, Ami," he said coldly, before ending the call. One evening, Imran's friend Nadim came over. He was the kind of man who loved gossip and drama. As they sat drinking, Nadim said, "So your new brother is a teacher, right? Heard he's doing well." Imran frowned. "Yeah, and your mom's quite proud of him. I saw her post some photo online, both of you with a caption, 'My two sons, my blessings.' Cute, huh?" Imran's jaw tightened. Nadim laughed. "Careful, bro. Sometimes, when a new son comes in, the old one gets forgotten." Imran's eyes darkened. "She could never forget me." Nadim shrugged. "Still, be careful. People change. Money makes them change faster." That night, Imran couldn't sleep again. He kept thinking about those words. Money makes them change faster. The next morning, Amina called Samir. "Can you visit tomorrow, Beta? I want to talk about something important." "Of course, Ami," Samir replied. "Everything okay?" Yes. Just want to discuss some papers." Imran overheard the call from the other room. His chest tightened again. "Papers," he muttered. "Of course. She's finalizing the property." When Amina left the house later that day to meet a friend, Imran sneaked into her room again. He took the lawyer's letter, folded it, and hid it in his jacket pocket. His hands trembled as he whispered to himself, If she wants to take my half away, she'll regret it. The next day, Samir arrived with a smile. Assalamu alaikum, Emmy. Mina hugged him warmly. Walaikum assalam, Beta. Sit down. I'll bring tea. Imran came out of his room a moment later, his face blank. You're here again, he said dryly. Samir smiled politely. Yes, Amy wanted to discuss something. Imran nodded, pretending to be calm. Of course. You're always here when it's about something important. Samir frowned. Imran, is something wrong? No, Imran said sharply. Nothing at all. The tension between them filled the room like heavy smoke. Amina noticed it immediately. What's wrong with you two? Your brothers act like it. Neither replied. After tea, Amina went to fetch the papers from her room. When she opened the drawer, she gasped. The letter. It's gone. Samir and Imran rushed in. What letter, Amy? The lawyer's letter, she said in panic. The one about the property. Imran quickly said, Maybe you misplaced it. She shook her head. No, I kept it right here. Samir looked around, confused. Did someone visit? No one, Amina said, her voice trembling. Imran crossed his arms. Relax, Amy. It's just a paper. You can get another copy. But his tone gave him away, cold, distant, careless. Samir noticed it. His eyes narrowed slightly. Something wasn't right. That night, when Amina was asleep, Samir stepped outside for fresh air. The night was quiet, the street lamps dim. He stood by the gate thinking. Suddenly, he heard a rustling noise near the corner. He turned and saw Imran throwing something into the garbage bin. Samir frowned and waited for Imran to walk away. Then, when the coast was clear, he walked to the bin and opened it. Inside was a crumpled paper, half burned. He pulled it out carefully and opened it under the streetlight. It was the lawyer's letter. His heart sank. Oh, Imran. He whispered sadly. He didn't know what to do. Should he confront him or tell Amina? He stayed up the whole night thinking. The next morning, Amina noticed Samir was quiet during breakfast. Beta, are you okay? He forced a smile. Yes, Amy. Just a little tired. Imran walked in, pretending everything was normal. But Samir saw the guilt hiding behind his fake smile. After breakfast, Samir finally said, Imran, can we talk outside? Imran hesitated, then nodded. They stepped out into the yard. The air was tense. Samir looked at him calmly. I know what you did last night. Imran froze. What do you mean? The letter, Samir said quietly. I found it. Burned in the garbage. Imran's face turned pale. You went through the garbage. I went through what was left of Amy's trust, Samir said softly. Why, Imran? She was dividing everything equally. Imran's voice rose. Equally. That's the problem. I've been her son all my life. You just walked in and she gives you half of everything. Samir's tone remained calm. I never asked for her money. I only wanted her love. Imran's eyes burned. Easy for you to say. You already have a life. I have nothing. Samir stepped closer. You have her. You have a mother who loves you more than anything. Isn't that enough? Imran looked away, breathing hard. I don't know any more. Samir placed a hand on his shoulder. Then know this. I will never take what belongs to you. Not money, not property. The only thing I want is peace for her. For a moment, Imran didn't speak. His jaw tightened, then slowly relaxed. His eyes filled with shame. I don't deserve a brother like you, he whispered. Samir smiled gently. You deserve love, Imran. We both do. That evening, Imran quietly returned the burnt letter to Amina's room, replaced it with a note that simply said, Forgive me, Ami. I was blinded by fear. I'll never hurt you again. When Amina found it the next morning, tears filled her eyes. She didn't ask questions. She just called both her sons and hugged them tightly. She whispered, Family isn't about what we own. It's about what we forgive. The two brothers looked at each other and nodded silently. Outside, the sun rose slowly, casting warm light through the window as if life was giving them one more chance to heal. The morning sun fell gently through the curtains of Amina's house. Everything finally seemed calm again. Samir and Imran had started talking like brothers. They helped Amina with breakfast, laughed together. And for the first time in years, the house felt full of life. Amina smiled as she poured tea for them. "My sons," she said softly, "when I see you both together, I feel young again." Imran grinned. "Then we'll stay together forever, Ami. You'll never feel old." "Ami," Samir chuckled. "That means we can't fight again, right?" Imran nodded. "No fights, only peace." They all laughed, the sound echoing warmly through the small living room. Outside, the day was quiet. Birds chirped on the trees, and a soft breeze passed through the open window. For Amina, it felt like life was giving her a new beginning. But peace has a strange way of testing people. Because just when everything seems perfect, something always comes knocking. That afternoon, Amina was watering her plants when she heard a knock on the gate. It was soft, polite, but unusual. She wiped her hands and walked over. When she opened the gate, a man stood there, tall with gray hair and tired eyes. His clothes were simple but dusty, as if he had traveled far. He looked at Amina for a long moment before speaking. "As-salam alaikum," he said quietly. "Wa-alaikum-salam." Amina replied, unsure who he was. "Yes, can I help you?" The man hesitated. His lips trembled. "You may not recognize me, Amina, but I know you." Amina frowned. "Who are you?" He lowered his gaze. "My name is Rafiq. I was your husband's closest friend." Her heart skipped a beat. "My husband's friend." "Yes," Rafiq said slowly. "From before. Everything happened." She looked at him carefully. "It's been over 20 years. Why are you here now?" Rafiq sighed deeply. "Because there is something I should have told you long ago. Something about your son." Her eyes widened. "My son?" "Yes," he said softly. "About Imran." Amina's breath caught in her throat. "What are you talking about?" "Please," he said, glancing toward the house. "Can we sit? It's a long story." She hesitated, then nodded and led him to the porch. Inside, Samir and Imran were fixing a broken chair. They didn't notice the visitor until they heard voices outside. "Who's that?" Imran asked. "I don't know," Samir replied. "Let's see." They stepped out just as Rafiq sat down. The old man turned and froze when he saw Imran. His face went pale. His hands trembled. "You?" he whispered. "You look just like your father." Imran frowned. "You knew my father." Rafiq nodded, emotion filling his eyes. "More than you know," Amina interrupted. "Rafiq, please stop speaking in puzzles. What do you want to say?" He took a deep breath. "Amina, before your husband died, he came to me with a secret. He made me promise to protect something, or rather, someone." "Someone?" she asked, confused. "Yes," Rafiq said slowly. "A child." Amina blinked. "What child?" Rafiq looked directly at Samir. Him. The silence that followed felt like thunder. Samir's face went blank. "What?" Imran stepped forward, his voice sharp. "What nonsense is this old man?" Rafiq's eyes filled with tears. "It's not nonsense. Samir, you're not an orphan. You are Amina's husband's son." From before their marriage, Amina gasped, covering her mouth. "What are you saying?" Rafiq continued. "Your husband had a relationship before he met you, Amina. The woman died soon after giving birth. Your husband couldn't bear to tell you. So he asked me to keep the baby safe until the right time came." Samir's lips trembled. "You mean my father is also?" "Yes," Rafiq said softly. "You and Imran are real brothers." For a long moment, no one spoke. Only the ticking of the old clock inside could be heard. Imran's eyes darted from Samir to Rafiq to Amina. "No, that's impossible." Amina's face turned pale. Her hands shook as she whispered, "My husband. He never told me. Not once." Rafiq lowered his head. "He wanted to, but before he could, he died in that accident. He made me promise to find the right moment to tell you. And this is your right moment," Imran shouted. "After 20 years?" After you let strangers walk into our life and turn everything upside down? Samir stood frozen, unable to breathe. His mind felt heavy, as if 1,000 memories were flashing at once. All his life he thought he was alone. Now suddenly he had a mother, a brother, a family, and it was all connected by a secret, buried for decades. Amina could barely hold herself up. I need to sit down. Samir rushed to her side. Amy, are you okay? She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. Amy, she repeated softly, as if testing the word on her tongue. He looked at her helplessly. I don't know what to say. Rafiq reached into his bag and pulled out a small old photograph. Your father asked me to give you this when the time came. It was a faded photo of 2 young men. One was Amina's husband, smiling, holding a newborn baby. Amina's tears fell onto the photo. It's true, she whispered. Imran turned away, anger and confusion swirling inside him. So, he's not just some stranger we took in. He's my brother by blood. Rafiq nodded slowly. Yes, you share the same father. Imran clenched his fists. And you thought this would bring peace? You've destroyed everything again. He stormed back into the house, slamming the door behind him. Amina sat silently, staring at the ground. Samir knelt beside her. Amy, please don't cry. She looked at him with trembling lips. I don't know what to feel, Samir. My whole life feels like a lie now. I loved your father with all my heart. And yet, he kept this from me. Samir's voice broke. He didn't want to hurt you. Maybe he thought this was the only way. Rafiq sighed. He told me Amina has a kind heart. One day she will forgive me. Amina closed her eyes. Forgive him? I don't even know if I can forgive myself for not knowing. The wind outside grew stronger, rustling the trees. It was as if the whole house felt the pain too. Samir gently held her hand. You don't have to decide now, Amy. Just know that I will never leave you. Not again. She looked into his eyes, the same eyes that once belonged to the man she had loved. Slowly she nodded. I know, she whispered. You are my son too. That night the house was quiet again, but this time it was not peace. It was silence heavy with shock. Imran sat in his room, staring at the floor. His heart was torn. He wanted to hate Samir, but he couldn't. He remembered their talks, their laughter, their bond. Everything was real. And now it was even deeper. Still, his pride whispered. He took what was yours in the next room. Samir couldn't sleep either. He kept replaying Rafiq's words. You and Imran are real brothers. He felt both joy and sorrow at once. For so long he had wondered who he was, where he belonged. Now he knew, but the truth came with pain. The next morning, Amina woke early. She went to her husband's old photograph on the wall. Her fingers brushed over his face. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. You should have trusted me. Then she looked toward her son's rooms. Now I must fix what you left broken. She took a deep breath and called out Imran. Samir, come here, both of you. They came slowly, avoiding each other's eyes. Amina looked at them firmly. I don't care what happened before. What matters is now. You both are my sons. Your father's blood runs in both of you. I will not allow this family to break again. Do you understand? Both men stayed silent. I said, do you understand? Finally, Samir nodded. Yes, Amy. Imran's eyes softened. Yes, Amy, he whispered. She smiled faintly through her tears. Then promise me, no matter what happens next, you'll stand together. Not as strangers, as brothers. They hesitated, then slowly shook hands, but deep in both their hearts. They knew peace would not come easily again, because every truth carries a shadow, and theirs had only just begun to appear. The days after Rafiq's visit passed slowly, filled with silence and confusion. The house that once echoed with laughter now felt heavy, as if every wall was carrying a secret. Amina tried her best to keep things normal. She cooked meals, talked softly, and forced smiles. But even her gentle voice couldn't heal the invisible wounds that had opened. Samir helped around the house, avoiding long talks. Imran, meanwhile, spoke less and less. He worked late hours, came home tired, and stayed locked in his room. Amina noticed the change. One evening, she quietly placed a cup of tea outside his door and whispered, "Please don't close your heart again." But he didn't answer. One night, as Amina sat alone in the living room, she opened an old wooden box that had belonged to her husband. It was filled with small items, a pocket watch, a few letters, and a metal key tied with red thread. She had never paid much attention to it before, but now something about the key caught her eye. What was this for? She murmured. On the side of the key was a tiny engraving B17. She frowned. That's not any room in this house. Just then, Samir came in. "Emmy, you're still awake?" "Yes, Beta." "Look at this key." She handed it to him. Samir examined it closely. B17. Maybe it belongs to a locker or a storage place. Amina nodded slowly. "Maybe your father kept something important. Something he never told me." Samir smiled gently. "Then we should find out, Ammy. Maybe it will finally give us peace." The next day, Samir went to town with the key. He visited the old post office, the local bank, even a warehouse, but no one recognized the key. Just when he was about to give up, an old guard at the National Bank squinted at it and said, "This looks like our old locker key style. But we stopped using these 20 years ago." 20 years? Samir asked. "Yes. Only the main branch downtown had them. You could check there." Samir thanked him and left, a strange feeling growing in his chest. He didn't tell Amina yet. He wanted to be sure first. Later that week, he went to the main bank branch. The manager, a kind old man, greeted him. "Sir, I'm looking for information about an old locker." "The number is B17, Samir said. The manager frowned, typing something into the computer. After a long pause, he looked up. Yes. Locker B17 was registered under the name Mr. Zahid Ahmed. Samir's heart skipped a beat. "That's my father's name." The manager nodded. "It's been untouched since his death. No one came to claim it." Samir's voice trembled. "Can I open it?" "You'll need proof of relationship and your mother's permission," the manager said. "Come tomorrow with the documents." Samir thanked him and left, his mind spinning. What could be inside that locker for so many years? That night, he sat with Amina. "Ami," he said softly, "I've found where the key belongs." Her eyes widened. "You did?" "Yes. It's a bank locker in Abbott Road branch." "It was your husband's." Amina's breath trembled. "After all these years." "Tomorrow we can go together and open it," Samir said gently. Imran, who was sitting in the corner, looked up sharply. "A locker. What's in it?" Samir turned. "We don't know yet." Imran's tone grew hard. "You didn't think to tell me before?" Samir sighed. "I wanted to confirm first. I didn't hide it." Imran crossed his arms. "Sure, just like everything else." Amina frowned. "Imran, stop. This isn't the time. We'll go together tomorrow." Imran said nothing, but inside, jealousy and suspicion began to grow again. What if there's money in that locker? What if it's all given to him? The next morning, the three of them went to the bank. The manager greeted them and led them to the old locker room downstairs. The air was cold and still, filled with the smell of metal and dust. Each locker door was marked with numbers, faded with time. Finally, they stood before B17. Amina held the key tightly, her hands shaking. "Your father's secret," she whispered. Samir gently placed his hand over hers. "Let's open it together." They inserted the key, turned it, click. The metal door creaked open. Inside was a small brown envelope, yellowed with age. Nothing else. Imran frowned. "That's it." Samir took it out carefully and opened it. Inside were several folded documents and one photograph. The photograph showed their father standing beside a man Samir didn't recognize, but Amina did. Her face turned pale. That's Rashid," she whispered. "Your father's business partner." Samir looked at the papers. "It's an agreement. Their partnership deal." Imran leaned closer. "Read it." Samir scanned the words, his eyes widening. It says, Rashid owed our father 30 lakh rupees. It was never repaid, Amina gasped. 30 lakh. That's impossible. They said after the accident, Rashid lost everything. Samir looked at the last page. No, Ami, he didn't lose anything. He transferred all assets under his wife's name. Imran clenched his fists. So he lied. He took everything. Amina covered her mouth, whispering, Oh Allah. Samir put the papers back in the envelope. We can still claim this money. It's written here clearly. Imran's voice grew tense. Claim? How? After 20 years? Samir replied calmly, We'll try. Maybe it's not about money. Maybe it's about justice. Imran glared at him. Justice won't pay bills. That night, Imran couldn't stop thinking. 30 lakh rupees. A huge amount. Enough to change their lives. But a darker thought crept in. What if Samir claims it alone? He's already the good son. Everyone trusts him. He sat in the dark, his face lit only by his phone screen. He searched for Rashid online, and what he found shocked him. Rashid was alive. Not only alive, he was rich. He owned a construction company in another city. Imran's jaw tightened. So that old snake still lives. He looked towards Samir's room, where lights still glowed. And he'll tell Ami before I can do anything. His mind twisted with greed and fear. He wanted to help his family, but he also wanted to be the hero, the savior, the one who fixed everything. So, without telling anyone, he made a decision. The next morning, when Amina woke up, Imran was gone. A note on the table read, Ami, I'm going to meet Rashid. I'll bring back what belongs to us. Amina's heart dropped. Oh no, not again. Samir came running when he heard her cry. What happened? She handed him the note. His face turned pale. He went alone. Yes, without telling us. Samir quickly grabbed his jacket. I'll find him. Don't worry, Ami. I won't let him face that man alone. Amina held his arm. Please, be careful. Rashid was a dangerous man even then. I promise, Samir said, and ran out. Hours later, Samir reached the nearby city and tracked down Rashid's company. It was a big building with glass walls and guards at the gate. He spotted Imran's motorcycle parked outside. Inside, the sound of raised voices echoed from the office upstairs. Samir ran up the stairs and froze at the door. Through the glass, he saw Imran shouting at an older man sitting behind a large desk. Rashid, you stole my father's money. Imran yelled. Rashid smirked. Your father is dead. The deal is dead too. Go home, boy. Imran slammed his hand on the desk. I'm not leaving without what's ours. Or what? Rashid sneered. You'll threaten me. Samir burst through the door. Imran, stop. Imran turned. Stay out of this, Samir. Rashid's guards entered, ready to push them out. Samir held Imran's arm. We'll go, please. This isn't the way. But Imran's anger boiled over. He grabbed a glass paperweight and threw it against the wall, shattering it. Rashid shouted, Get them out. The guards pushed them outside roughly. Samir pulled Imran away before things got worse. Are you crazy? You could get arrested. Imran's voice cracked. He took everything from us. Samir sighed. I know, but there are better ways. Imran sat on the pavement, breathing heavily. I just wanted to prove I could fix something. For once. Samir sat beside him quietly. You already did. You tried. For a long time, they said nothing, just sat there. Two broken brothers in a noisy street. When they returned home that night, Amina was waiting by the gate. Her eyes were red from crying. She ran to them. You're safe. Thank God. Imran lowered his head. I'm sorry, Ami. She hugged both of them tightly. No more secrets. No more fights. Promise me. Both men nodded, but deep down, Samir knew the truth about Rashid wasn't finished. There was still something hidden behind that old partnership. Something darker, and soon it would come knocking again. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. Amina had fallen asleep in the living room after crying herself tired. The house was dim, only the small lamp beside her glowing softly. Samir stood near the window, looking outside. The street was empty, but his heart wasn't calm. Something about the way Rashid looked at them today, that cold smile, still haunted him. Imran sat at the dining table, staring at nothing. His face showed regret, but also something else. Fear, Samir, he said finally, breaking the silence. Do you think Rashid will come after us? Samir shook his head slowly. I don't know. But that man didn't look like he forgives easily. Imran sighed. I made things worse. I always do. Samir turned and placed a hand on his brother's shoulder. You made a mistake. Yes, but we'll fix it together. Imran looked up with tired eyes. You still believe that? Samir nodded. I have to. Otherwise, what else do we have? For a moment, both brothers sat quietly, two hearts full of guilt, trying to rebuild trust that life had broken too many times. The next morning, the air felt heavy. Amina was in the kitchen preparing tea when she noticed something strange. Muddy footprints near the gate. She frowned. Samir, did you go out early today? He looked confused. No, why? There are footprints outside. Like someone came last night. Imran walked over to check. The footprints led from the gate to the veranda and disappeared near the window. Samir's chest tightened. Someone was watching us. Amina's hands trembled. Who would do that? Samir didn't answer, but both brothers knew who could. That evening, Samir went to the police station. He met Inspector Faisal, a tall, calm man with sharp eyes. Samir told him everything, the old debt, Rashid's anger, the argument, and the footprints. The inspector listened quietly, then said it could be nothing, but it could also be a warning. Samir nodded. That's what I thought. Faisal leaned forward. Do you want protection? No, Samir replied quickly. I just wanted you to know, in case something happens. Faisal gave a half smile. Let's hope nothing does. When Samir returned home, the streetlights were flickering. As he parked his bike, he noticed a black car standing at the corner. Its windows were dark. The engine was off. He watched it for a few seconds, but it didn't move. Still, his instincts whispered danger. He walked inside and locked the door twice. Late that night, as rain began to fall, a soft tapping sound came from the window near the kitchen. Amina woke first. She froze. The sound came again. Tap, tap, tap. She whispered Samir. He rushed out of his room, followed by Imran. Both grabbed sticks from the storeroom and moved toward the window slowly. The rain poured harder now. Lightning flashed, and for a second, Samir saw a shadow standing outside. Near the mango tree, a man. Samir shouted, Who's there? No answer. He opened the back door and ran out, the rain soaking his clothes instantly. Imran followed, but when they reached the tree, no one was there. Only wet grass and the faint smell of cigarette smoke. Imran picked up a crushed cigarette butt. He was here, watching. Samir clenched his fists. It's him. Rashid's men. Amina stood at the doorway, shivering. Please, come inside. Don't go after him. Samir finally nodded. Okay, but from now on, we stay alert. The next few days were tense. Every sound made Amina jump. Every passing car made Samir look out the window. Imran stopped going to work. He didn't want to leave his mother alone. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived. No name, no stamp. Just an envelope slipped under the gate. Samir opened it carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper. It said, Your father's debt was paid in blood. Stop digging, or history will repeat. Mina gasped. Oh my God. What does that mean? Samir's hands shook as he read it again. He's threatening us. Imran took the paper and crushed it. I'll go to Rashid myself. Samir grabbed his arm. No, that's what he wants. To provoke us. Amina began to cry softly. This family has suffered enough. Why won't the past leave us alone? Samir knelt beside her. It will, Emmy, I promise. I'll end this. But deep inside, he wasn't sure how. That night, when everyone was asleep, Samir couldn't rest. He sat by the window staring at the dark street. The rain had stopped, but the air felt colder than ever. Suddenly, he noticed something near the gate. a small light like a phone screen. He stepped closer to the window. The light disappeared. He ran outside before Imran could stop him. The gate was half open. On the ground, he found a small black leather wallet. He picked it up and opened it. Inside was an ID card. The name read Rashid Hussain. Samir froze. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. He turned toward the street. But it was empty. Rashid had been there watching. The next morning, Samir took the wallet to the police station again. Inspector Faisal examined it. If this is really Rashid's, then he's getting desperate. He's trying to scare you. Can't you arrest him? Samir asked. Faisal sighed. Not without proof of a crime. Threats like this are hard to trace. Samir clenched his jaw. Then I'll find proof. The inspector looked at him seriously. Be careful. Men like Rashid play dirty. When Samir came home, he found Imran packing a bag. What are you doing? He asked. Imran zipped it closed. I'm going to Lahore. What? Why? I found Rashid's company address. If he's hiding something, I'll find it. Samir stepped in front of him. You'll only make it worse. Imran glared. You don't understand. I can't sit here while he threatens us. Imran, listen to me. No. You always think you know better. Samir's voice rose. Because I learned from my mistakes, and you keep repeating them. The room went silent. Both brothers stood there, breathing heavily. Anger burning between them again. Amina appeared at the door, tears in her eyes. Please, stop fighting. Not again. Samir turned away first. Fine, go if you want. But don't drag us into your chaos again. Imran's face hardened. You'll see, Samir. I'll fix this once and for all. And he left. Hours passed. The rain returned. Amina sat near the window, praying quietly. Samir tried calling Imran, no answer. Again and again. Nothing. He began pacing. Something's wrong. Then his phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. He opened it, and his blood ran cold. It was a photo. Imran tied to a chair with bruises on his face. Below it, the message read, You wanted the truth. Come get your brother, alone. Samir's breath caught. His legs almost gave out. Amina looked at him, terrified. What happened? He couldn't speak. He showed her the phone. She gasped, covering her mouth. No, my son. Samir took a deep breath. I'll bring him back. Amina grabbed his arm. Samir, it's a trap. He nodded. I know. Then don't go. He looked at her, eyes burning with determination. He's my brother. I have to. As he walked out into the storm, his father's old words echoed in his head. Courage isn't about fighting. It's about protecting what matters. Samir clenched his fists. He didn't know what waited for him on the other side of the night, but he knew this. He wasn't going to lose his family again. Not to Rashid. Not to fear. Not to the past. The night was wild with thunder. Rain fell in heavy sheets. And lightning flashed across the sky like broken glass. Samir rode through the storm, his motorbike cutting through the wet road. His clothes were soaked, his hands cold. But his heart burned with one thought. I have to save Imran. He followed the address sent with the message. It led him to the edge of the city, an old abandoned factory that looked forgotten by time. Its tall iron gate creaked in the wind, and its broken windows stared like dark eyes. Samir stopped his bike and took a deep breath. He looked around, no one. Only the sound of rain hitting metal. Slowly, he pushed the gate open. Inside. The factory was dark, except for one flickering light deep within. The smell of rust and oil filled the air. Samir's shoes splashed through puddles as he walked, his heart pounding faster with every step. Then he heard it, a voice. Weak, trembling, Samir. He froze. Imran. Following the sound, he reached a small room at the back. There, under the dim light, Imran sat tied to a chair, ropes cutting into his wrists. His face was bruised, his shirt torn. Samir ran to him. Imran, are you okay? Imran coughed. I told you not to come. Quiet. I'm getting you out. But before Samir could untie the ropes, a deep voice echoed behind him. Touch him. and you'll regret it. Samir turned around sharply. Rashid stood there, holding a gun. His face was calm, but his eyes dark and cold like stone. So Rashid said slowly, "The loyal son came after all." Samir's jaw tightened. "Let him go, Rashid. He has nothing to do with your hate." Rashid laughed bitterly. "Nothing to do with it? His father cheated me. His mother hid it. And now you, the hero, come to fix everything." "I just want my family safe," Samir said firmly. Rashid stepped closer, water dripping from his coat. "Do you even know what your father did?" Samir didn't move. "Tell me." Rashid smiled cruelly. "Your father took my money, promised to return it in a week. But he disappeared. I lost everything, my business, my home, my name, while he lived like a king with his family." Samir shook his head. "That's not true. My father died in debt. He never cheated anyone." "Lies." Rashid shouted, the gun shaking slightly in his hand. "He betrayed me?" Samir took a small step forward. "Maybe he made mistakes, but punishing his sons won't change your past." Rashid's eyes narrowed. "You talk like a preacher, but you don't know pain." "I do," Samir said quietly. "I lost my father too early. I lost my home. I lost my peace. But I never blamed the world. I fought to survive." For a moment, Rashid's expression flickered doubt, maybe even regret. But then his anger returned. "You think words will save you?" He hissed. He raised the gun. Imran shouted, "No." Samir froze, his heart thundering. Then a sound broke the silence. A police siren. Rashid turned toward the window, startled. Samir took the chance. He lunged forward, grabbing Rashid's wrist. The gun went off, the sound echoing through the factory like thunder. Imran shouted, "Samir!" The two men struggled, slipping on the wet floor. The gun fell and slid away. Rashid punched Samir hard in the stomach. But Samir didn't stop. He grabbed Rashid's coat, pushing him backward. "Stop this, Rashid," he shouted. "It's over." Rashid growled, shoving him back. "Not until you pay for your father's sins." Samir's hand hit a metal pipe nearby. He grabbed it, blocking Rashid's next swing. Lightning flashed again, and in that brief second, Rashid's face was twisted with rage and sorrow all at once. Samir shouted over the storm, "Revenge won't bring you peace." Rashid froze. The words echoed through the room. For a second, the fight stopped. Then the factory door burst open. Inspector Faisal and two officers rushed in. "Drop it, Rashid," Faisal ordered. Rashid looked around, breathing hard. He seemed lost now, like a man who had been running for too long. Finally, he dropped the pipe. His shoulders sank. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he murmured. Faisal stepped forward, handcuffed him, and let him out. Samir fell to his knees, exhausted. His body hurt, but he didn't care. He crawled to Imran and untied him. Imran's hands shook. "You shouldn't have come." Samir smiled weakly. "I told you. You're my brother." Imran's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Samir, for everything. The money, the anger. I don't deserve your forgiveness." Samir pulled him into a hug. "We both made mistakes, but we're still family." For the first time in years, Imran hugged back without pride. Without distance, only love and guilt melting together. When they returned home that night, Amina was waiting at the door, crying before they even spoke. She hugged them both tightly, her hands shaking. "I thought I'd lost you again," she whispered. Samir kissed her forehead. "You'll never lose us, Ami. Not again." Imran wiped his tears quietly. "I'll fix everything, Ami, I promise. I'll work hard, pay off what I can, rebuild our name." Amina smiled softly. "I don't need money, Beta. I just need my sons." Samir looked at her, his voice full of emotion. "You already have us, both of us." Months passed. The fear faded, replaced by peace. Rashid was charged and taken away for his past crimes, including blackmail and illegal threats. Imran started a small business, determined to earn honestly this time. Samir helped him after work while Amina finally began to smile again. One Sunday evening, as the sun set and the birds returned home, Amina stood in the garden watering her flowers. She looked up to see both her sons fixing the old gate, together the same gate where the trouble had begun. Samir laughed. "Careful, Imran. You'll break it again." Imran smiled. "You talk too much for someone who can't even hold a screwdriver." Amina laughed softly. That sound, warm, peaceful, full of life, filled the house again after so long as she watched them. Her heart felt complete. Once she thought life had taken everything. But now she realized sometimes losing everything is how you truly find what matters. That night, the three of them sat together for dinner. Amina looked at her sons and said, "Do you remember when I used to tell you that family is like a tree?" Samir nodded. "Yes, the roots keep it strong." She smiled. "Exactly. Storms can bend the branches, even break some, but the roots always hold the ground." Imran looked thoughtful. "We bent a lot, didn't we?" Amina chuckled. "Yes, but we didn't break." For a moment, silence filled the room, the good kind, the kind that comes after peace. Samir raised his glass of water. "Two new beginnings." Imran clinked his glass. "To family." Amina smiled, her eyes shining. "To love that survives everything." They all laughed softly, and the sound echoed through the house, not just noise, but healing that night, as Samir stepped outside to lock the gate. He looked up at the stars. The air was calm. No fear, no threats, just peace. He whispered softly, "Abu, I did it. I kept the family safe." A soft wind blew through the trees, almost like an answer. He smiled, turned, and walked back inside, closing the door not on pain, but on the past. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Remember, no matter how dark the night feels, love and truth always find their way back home.